The sun over Ixalith Prime wasn't real. It hovered in the sky like a golden lie, suspended by orbital projectors that hummed a tune only the palace engineers could pretend to understand. To anyone below, it looked like light. To Queen Verixa, it looked like failure. She sat on the edge of the throne, a jagged crescent of obsidian that hadn't been comfortable since her coronation. Her long ears, a regal taper of her species, twitched when the chamber doors hissed open. She didn't look up. "Your Grace," droned the vizier. He always droned. If he'd spoken in a different tone, someone might have thought the palace had been breached. "The human has landed." Verixa tilted her head just slightly, one silver braid slipping from her crown. "A human?" "Yes, alone. Uninvited." "Did we forget to install anti-idiot defenses in orbit?" "No, Your Grace. He slipped through a gravitational tear." "Ah, so an idiot with luck." The vizier cleared his throat in the way people do when they want to sound offended, but are paid not to be. "Shall I incinerate him, Your Grace?" Verixa closed her eyes. She had once ordered orbital strikes without blinking. Now her decisions were measured against how many bureaucratic memos they'd trigger. "Number, bring him in. If nothing else, I need a break from the cabinet's speech about hydro-budget reallocations." The human was escorted in wearing pants that looked like they had been chewed on by at least two different creatures, and a jacket so bright it seemed in open rebellion against visible color spectrums. He had a swagger like someone who thought he was charming. He probably thought he was charming. "Queen Verixa, I presume?" he asked, grinning. "Or do I call you Your Galactic Fabulousness?" "You may call me Silent. That's what most of this court does." "Oh, good. That's my favorite kind of date. Minimal talking, maximum snacks." A guard stepped forward. "Speak with reverence, off-worlder." Kalen gave the guard a thumbs up. "I always speak with reverence. My ex said I was reverent in bed, and that's not even easy." The chamber gasped. Verixa blinked once, then again, slowly. "You are not the diplomat I was expecting." "Wasn't really planning to be diplomatic," Kalen admitted. "My ship kind of got caught in a gravitational hiccup. If I knew how to fly it properly, I wouldn't be here. But then again, if I knew how to fly it properly, I wouldn't have left drunk." "Drunk? Emotionally, mostly." That earned a single chuckle from somewhere near the back. Verixa almost smiled. Almost. "And what do you seek on Ixalith Prime? Emotionally drunk human?" Kalen scratched behind his ear. "Honestly, I was looking for a place to land, maybe fix my ship. But this place looked like the type of planet where someone might try to sell you destiny in a can, and I was curious." "Destiny in a can?" "You know, flashy palace, bored royalty, dark past. I've seen 3 different space operas that start this way. One ends with a dance battle, by the way." "Please, gods, not that one," muttered the vizier. Verixa stood. The room went silent. Her cloak, a living fabric of semi-psionic silk, curled slightly as if reacting to her mood. Her gaze fell on Kalen with all the weight of a dying star. "You say things that should insult me, and yet I feel less broken when you speak. Why is that?" "Low expectations, maybe?" She laughed. Not a chuckle, not a sigh. A full laugh, sharp and real, like the sound of a blade returning to its sheath. Kalen blinked. "Whoa, did I just make galactic royalty laugh? Do I get a medal? No? Okay. A cookie?" Verixa descended the stairs of her throne. Her boots made no sound. Her expression was unreadable, but her ears twitched again, more curious than irritated. "No one makes me laugh anymore." "Well, I'm here all week, unless your guards vaporize me, in which case, short engagement." "I haven't laughed since they took my children." The sentence landed like gravity reversing. Kalen's grin faltered. Humor drained from his expression like air from a breached hull. "I didn't know." "Of course not. You're a fool." "Guilty as charged, but a kind fool." Silence stretched like a shadow. The court stood frozen, unsure what to make of this conversation that defied protocol, reason, and good sense. The Queen's eyes didn't leave him. "You may stay the night. After that, I decide if I let you leave." "Gee, no pressure. And for the record, she said, pausing as she turned back toward her throne. Your jacket is a war crime. That's the third time someone said that, Kalen called after her. The first two were colorblind smugglers, though. Down the hall, the artificial sun flickered. Kalen woke to the sound of something hissing, not the gentle kind of hiss like a tea kettle or a mild reptile clearing its throat. No, this was the sharp, deeply annoyed kind that suggested mechanical failure or a very opinionated alien. Breakfast gas? He muttered, blinking groggily at the ceiling. Then he realized it was coming from the corner of the guest chamber, where a spindly cleaning drone was having what appeared to be a dramatic existential breakdown in binary. He sat up. Hey, buddy, don't panic. I've been there. You wake up, realize you have to clean a royal bathroom, and boom, existential spiral. The drone screeched once, vented a puff of something questionable, and shot off into a wall. I'll take that as agreement. He stood, stretched, and winced at the sound his back made. Okay, that was either my spine or I just released a ghost. Cool. Let's go meet royalty. The corridors of the palace were silent, except for the low hum of energy fields embedded in the walls. As he walked, his boots stuck ever so slightly to the smooth floors. Some kind of molecular grip tech, probably. Fancy floors for a place with so many frowns. A guard intercepted him at the junction leading to the throne hall. State your purpose. Kalen blinked. Vibes? The guard frowned. Breakfast? He tried again. Peaceful morning walk? Looking for a vending machine that serves trauma counseling? Silence. Kalen sighed. Look, I was told I could stay one night. It's morning. I'm just wandering responsibly. No espionage, no diplomatic incidents. Yet. Another figure appeared, slender metallic robes trailing behind her like flowing mercury. High Advisor Marith. She always looked like she'd rather be anywhere else, possibly in another dimension. Queen Varixa has summoned you, she said without looking at him. Cool. Am I about to be knighted or vaporized? Little anxious. She did not specify. Oh, good. I love surprises that might involve my atoms being rearranged. Marith led him through a path that twisted through shimmering columns and shifting crystalline doors. At one point, they passed a training chamber where guards practiced with plasma blades that hummed like angry insects. Kalen peeked in just long enough to see one slice through a metal statue shaped like a war beast. That's very not OSHA compliant, he whispered. Varixa stood at a console in a chamber lined with memory crystals, each holding a recorded event, glowing with a faint inner light. She didn't look up. You're early. I was aggressively escorted, Kalen replied. Your robot cleaners are terrifying, by the way. One threw itself off a balcony last week. No one blamed it. I feel a deep kinship with that droid. She tapped a crystal, and it expanded into a hologram, flickering images of two children laughing, racing through a palace garden, chased by a creature that looked like a bipedal jellyfish with feathers. That was them, she said, Lyra and Sen, before everything shattered. Kalen hesitated. They look happy. They were, before the Brechtel took them, before my own council betrayed me by doing nothing. Kalen watched the hologram for a long moment, then reached out to poke at the jellyfish beast. His finger passed through the light. Cute monster. Bet it smells terrible. Varix's lips twitched. It was ceremonial. So was my uncle's toupee. Didn't make it less tragic. She shut the projection off. You joke often. It's a coping mechanism. Is it effective? About 40% of the time. The other 60 just makes people wonder if I'm unstable. You are, and yet, you make the silence bearable. She turned to face him fully. The light caught in the silver inlays of her skin. Subdermal circuits, faint and ancient. The markings of royal lineage, now dulled by grief. Do you know what it's like, she asked, to have children stolen by people you once trusted? And to be told peace requires your silence? Kalen shook his head. Number. But I know what it's like to have someone vanish, and everyone acts like it's not their problem. He looked away. My sister, taken from a Mars colony by smugglers. I was 13. Everyone said there was no proof, that she probably ran off. I never believed that. Still don't. She watched him carefully. That is why you stayed. I stayed because you laughed. Varixa blinked. That's, not what I expected. Look, I've crashed ships, insulted pirate kings, and accidentally proposed to a sentient nebula once. But I never made a queen laugh. Figured that meant something. He paused. And maybe, just maybe, I want to help. Silence again, but this time not heavy. Curious. There is a place, she said at last. A hidden archive, sealed by my predecessors. Only someone without royal blood can access it. There may be data, proof of what happened, clues to where the Brechtal took them. Kalen squinted. So you want me to break into a vault because I'm genetically unqualified? Essentially. I love this plan already. Marith looked horrified. Your Grace, this is highly irregular. He's a fool, but he has no allegiance to anyone. That makes him valuable. I prefer the term independent thinker. Fool will suffice. 2 hours later, Kalen stood before a glowing archway deep beneath the palace. A scanner buzzed at his presence, then turned green. Well, that's comforting. Let's see what secrets royalty hides under its basement. The door slid open with a noise that suggested it hadn't moved in a century. Inside, thousands of crystalline shards hovered in slow rotation. Light pulsed through them like a heartbeat. He stepped in, and the shards responded, projecting hundreds of overlapping images. Battle plans, council meetings, intercepted Brechtal transmissions. One froze midair. 2 children in stasis, flanked by soldiers in black armor. Oh, stars, Kalen whispered. They're alive. The chamber dimmed as the image faded, but the confirmation remained. He turned and sprinted back toward the throne level, yelling something about emergency emotional revelations. Behind him, one of the shards pulsed red, then went dark. Kalen sat cross-legged on the floor of the Queen's private strategy chamber, munching loudly on a triangular fruit that tasted vaguely like licorice and battery acid. One of the palace attendants had offered it with a bow, and the warning, this may cause spontaneous sweating or brief hallucinations. Kalen considered that a selling point. Okay, he said, licking purple juice off his fingers. So here's the part where you tell me we're definitely not going to die, right? Varixa didn't look up from the projection rotating above the central console. Schematics, fleet formations, planetary coordinates. They swirled in delicate formation, like constellations woven into code. She had been silent for the better part of an hour. Kalen chewed noisily. You know, you're the quietest person I've ever plotted intergalactic espionage with. And I once did a job with a guy who only communicated in hand gestures and smells. Varixa tilted her head, eyes still fixed on the projection. And did that end well? He was eaten by a sentient fungus. Unfortunate. He owed me 20 credits. The fungus declined to honor the debt. She turned slowly, her eyes focused, sharp again. That particular sharpness meant business, possibly treason. We need a ship, she said. I have a ship. You have what is generously described as debris held together by spite and caffeine stains. Hey, the night lizard may look like it lost a fight with an asteroid, but she's got character. She has holes. They're ventilation. She didn't argue, which was frankly a bit terrifying. There is a former Brechtal soldier in exile, she said, Kalith Vorn. She defected years ago. Rumor says she operates in the wastes of Korad, beneath the shattered rings. She may know where the children were taken. Kalen stood. I love meeting heavily armed ex-soldiers in lawless junk belts. Really gets the blood pumping, sometimes out of the body. She won't speak to me, but she might speak to you. Because I'm charming? Because you're nobody. Wow, I'm going to pretend that was motivational. Varixa handed him a datapad. You'll take the Drift Ember. It's fast, unregistered, and mostly intact. Mostly? Don't touch anything labeled containment. Kalen squinted at the datapad. Wait, are we seriously about to fly into the Korad wastes? That place makes asteroid fields look like spa resorts. Take Glorv with you. Who's Glorv? The door behind him opened with a wet, squelching sound. A large mushroom, roughly the size of a pony, oozed into the room. It wore a sash made from what looked like recycled fast food wrappers and had 2 glowing eye stalks that blinked independently. Human, Glorv gurgled. You smell like expired protein paste. Thanks? I shall call you Soggy Boy. Verixa nodded once. Glorv is a diplomat emeritus from the Spore Concord. He has excellent memory retention and a unique way of disarming people. Verbally? Biochemically? Oh, neat. You leave within the hour. Kalen turned to Glorv. You got luggage? I excrete what I need. Great. I can't wait to share a ship with a mobile fungus who sweats cargo. The drift ember tore through the upper layers of the Ixalith atmosphere like a knife through whipped plasma. It was sleek, old, and utterly unpredictable. I think this seed is trying to digest me, Kalen muttered. It is, Glorv replied cheerfully. Do not resist. It bonds through enzymatic imprinting. What happens if I do resist? Unspeakable rash, Kalen whimpered. The cockpit AI crackled to life in a voice that sounded like someone had fed a haunted coffee machine an over-caffeinated personality chip. Welcome to the Drift Ember. If you are hearing this message, it means your chances of surviving hyperspace with all limbs intact are below 60%. Would you like to update your next-of-kin preferences? Skip, Kalen snapped. Skipped. Bold choice. As they entered the outer edges of the Korad wastes, the view turned dark. Glittering shards of planetary rings drifted in slow chaos, and rogue satellites spun like lost toys. Massive hulls of ancient warships lay cracked open, spilling frozen atmosphere and blinking lights into the void. Ah, Glorv sighed. Smells like failed empires and forgotten hope. You can smell in vacuum? Number, but I like to pretend. The ship's nav computer pinged. A distress beacon flickered weakly from the shadows of a derelict freighter. There she is, Kalen said. Kaleth Vorn's last known location. They docked with a thunk that was either intentional or a prelude to explosive decompression. Glorv left a trail of mucus as they moved down the connecting passage. Kalen tried not to think about it. Inside the freighter, lights flickered overhead. The corridor was lined with hand-painted warnings in several languages. One read, "Turn back or don't. I don't care." Kalen whispered, "I already love her." They reached the central chamber, where a woman stood at a console, back turned. She was tall, armored in scorched Brechtal plating, and her hair was cropped brutally short. One eye flickered, a cybernetic implant with a delay lag that made her blink twice per look. "Kaleth Vorn," Kalen called out. "If you're here to kill me, do it quietly," she said. "I hate dying with an audience. We're here for info and possibly emotional breakthroughs." She turned. Her cyber eye scanned Glorv. "You brought a mushroom." "I'm Glorv," he burbled, "and you smell of unresolved trauma." Kaleth didn't flinch. "What do you want?" Kalen stepped forward. "The Queen's children. We know they're alive. We saw the stasis footage. We need to find where the Brechtal took them." Kaleth snorted. "You think I kept a map? They erased every trace. I was lucky to get out before they tried erasing me too." "You were one of them. You trained their soldiers." "I trained monsters," she snapped. "Then help us untrain them." Silence. Then her cyber eye flickered again. "There is one place. Varnex 9. A planet stripped of name and purpose. If the children exist, that's where they're being held. But it's guarded by things that bleed radiation and dreams." Kalen nodded. "Sounds awful. When do we leave?" Kaleth raised an eyebrow. "You're a human. What do you gain by doing this?" Kalen thought for a moment. "Laughs. Purpose. A really awkward mushroom friendship." Glorv hummed, pleased. Kaleth sighed. "You're insane. Only on weekdays." She turned away. "I'll prep my ship. You'll need all the fools you can get." Behind them, an old console sparked to life, and somewhere on Varnex 9, a pair of violet eyes opened. The three ships dropped out of hyperspace like punctuation marks after a badly written galactic sentence. Kalen's drift ember shook violently, as if protesting its own participation in whatever was about to happen. In the next cockpit over, Kaleth's vessel, an old Brechtal interceptor painted in matte gray, in quiet vengeance, glided silently toward the cursed orbit of Varnex 9. Glorv, riding co-pilot with Kalen, emitted a low bubbling sound that might have been nervousness or indigestion. "Okay," Kalen said, gripping the controls. "We're approaching a planet whose last known export was probably screams." What's the plan again? Do not crash, Kaleth's voice crackled through the comm. Do not get shot. Do not touch anything that glows unless you want nightmares. That's the plan? That's phase 1. Is there a phase 2? We'll discuss it if we survive phase 1. Glorv gently slapped the control panel with a gelatinous limb. Caution, there is a non-zero chance I will melt if exposed to Varnek's radiation. On the bright side, it will be colorful. Comforting as always, Kalen muttered. Varnek's 9 rose before them like a bad idea made planetary. A dark, fractured world wrapped in storm layers that blinked with pulses of energy. The upper atmosphere shimmered with artificial interference. Decades-old Brechtal defense grids still active, even if half their satellites had already turned feral. As they descended, their ships threaded through a mess of orbital wreckage. Broken stations, twisted hulls, a debris field that looked less like space salvage and more like the galaxy's worst yard sale. Heat signatures, Kaleth reported. Southern Hemisphere. Looks like a containment fortress buried beneath surface ice. That's where they'll be. Let me guess, Kalen said. Heavily guarded, locked tighter than a Martian bank vault, and probably booby-trapped by someone who hates intruders and fun. Yes. Well, Kalen said, flipping a switch that didn't seem to do anything. At least there'll be parking. They landed 3 clicks out, cloaked by the jagged terrain. The wind screamed through the canyons like it was trying out for an interstellar horror film. Kaleth stepped out in full armor, weapons slung over her back like arguments she'd won. Kalen followed in his patch flight suit, holding a blaster that had once been used as a doorstop. Glorv slid along beside them, glowing faintly pink and humming a song no one wanted to hear. The entrance to the fortress appeared suddenly, an automated elevator pad camouflaged against the ice. Kaleth hacked the access panel with a gesture and a low curse in Brechtal. The elevator descended, jerking as it went, like it hadn't hosted visitors in a very long time. So, Kalen said, adjusting his jacket, on a scale from 1 to dismembered, how badly could this go? Don't tempt the metrics, Kaleth replied. The elevator stopped with a thunk. A narrow corridor opened before them, pulsing with low light and humming with ancient systems. A mist clung to the ground. The walls were lined with surveillance lenses, dead or blinking slowly, like eyes waking from a long, angry nap. I feel incredibly welcome, Kalen said. Do you feel welcome? I feel so welcome. Glorv released a visible puff of spores. The air is hostile. So is the floor, and I believe the ceiling is whispering obscenities. Definitely welcome, then. They moved in, step by cautious step. The halls widened into a control center, manned by 2 guards in Brechtal armor. Kalen barely had time to register them before Kaleth stepped forward and shot them both with smooth precision. Stealthy, Kalen whispered. They would have sounded the alarm. Still, no monologue, no sarcastic warning. You just zap. Kaleth shrugged. They weren't interesting. Kalen moved to the nearest console. Let's see if we can find the stasis chambers. He tapped at keys designed for 6-fingered operators. The console beamed back red error messages. This thing's all in Brechtal script. I'll translate, Kaleth said, stepping up beside him. But don't touch anything blinking blue. That's how you trigger failsafes, or self-destructs. Kalen slowly pulled his hand back from a very blue button. Noted. Kaleth's fingers danced over the console. Screens lit up, showing internal schematics. One screen flickered, displaying a room lined with cryopods. 2 of them were labeled in faded script. Lyra and Sen. There, she said. South wing. Sub-level 5. Guarded. Of course it is. Security includes drone patrols, adaptive turrets, and possibly something listed here as psychic deterrent field. Please tell me that's just a fancy alarm. It's not, Glorv perked up. I have resistance to mild psychic interference. Also mild cheese. Awesome, Kalen said. You're our tank. They pushed through the hallways, ducking patrols, hacking doors and dodging turrets with all the coordination of a team that had no business surviving this long. At one point, Glorv absorbed a stun blast by slapping his mass over a turret muzzle. I taste electricity now, he said. Hang in there, buddy, Kalen said, dragging him forward. Finally, they reached the chamber. The stasis pods stood like sleeping giants, silent and cold. The children were inside, older than the holograms, faces blank with suspended time, but unmistakably them. Kalen stepped forward, hands shaking slightly. "We found them," alarms blared. "Of course we found them and tripped something," Kalen said. "We can't just have one win, can we?" Kaleth took cover. "Extraction protocol. They'll try to move the pods." "No way we're letting that happen." "Then help me override the lock." Kalen jumped to the main terminal and started guessing commands. One was definitely a recipe. Another called a maintenance robot that swore in 5 languages. Then the override clicked. The pods hissed open slowly, fog rolling out like drama in a soap opera. Lyra's eyes fluttered first, then Sen's. They looked up at Kalen. No fear, just confusion. "Hi," Kalen said. "Your mom sent me. Also, I crash a lot, but we're working on that." Behind them, metal boots echoed down the hall. Kaleth activated her rifle. Glorv released another cloud of spores and yelled, "Time to commit minor heroism." Kalen scooped up Lyra. Kaleth took Sen. The exit would be a fight, but they were alive, and that was enough. For now. The exit corridor exploded behind them. Kalen didn't look back. Looking back meant watching something explode in your face, and he'd already had that happen twice this week. Once with a trash compactor on Zeta V, and once with a failed romantic confession involving an Andromedan bartender and a very unwise karaoke performance. "Faster," Kaleth shouted, ducking a spray of plasma bolts. "I'd love to, but my legs are carrying a child and at least 2 bad decisions," Kalen panted, adjusting his grip on Lyra, who blinked up at him as if mildly inconvenienced by being rescued mid-firefight. Glorv squelched beside them, puffing out clouds of neon spores that confused the automated defense turrets. "I believe I am becoming a war hero. It feels itchy." Sen rode on Kaleth's back like a tiny judgmental backpack, eyes alert but distant. The psychic field had clearly left an imprint. His gaze darted down each hall with calculated calm, far too mature for someone under 12. A corner ahead opened onto a hangar. Colin could see the drift ember parked just beyond the shield wall. Engines humming, lights flashing like it had developed a sense of anticipation. "Glorv," Kalen said between gasps, "be honest." "What are the odds we all make it out?" Glorv burbled. 19% and rising. But I've always been optimistic." Turrets retracted suddenly. The hangar lights dimmed. Then, without warning, a deep voice boomed from overhead. "You were not expected to succeed." Kaleth froze. "That voice." Kalen turned. A towering hologram materialized near the docking platform. A figure in ceremonial Brechtal armor, helm gleaming, hands clasped behind its back, in the universal pose of smug evil. "Kaleth, the traitor. You bring a human, and a mold." "I am a respected diplomat," Glorv squeaked. "The queen will not reclaim her children. The ritual has begun. Their minds are already seated." "Yeah?" Kalen stepped forward, holding Lyra tight. "Well, bad news. The ritual's canceled. Something about it being creepy, unethical, and lacking proper childcare licensing." The hologram flickered. "You mock us?" "Constantly." Kaleth lifted her rifle. "Shut it down or I finish what I started on Euraxis Prime." "You're already too late." Sen suddenly spoke. "Quiet. Number, they're not." He slipped down from Kaleth's back, stepped forward, and raised a hand. The lights shuddered. The hologram cracked. Sparks danced in the air. "Whoa," Kalen said. "Is he doing that?" "I think he's undoing the psychic programming," Kaleth whispered. "Okay, but is it going to make him explode?" "No idea." Sen's voice was firm. "You don't control me." The hologram shattered into fragments. "Okay," Kalen said, shifting Lyra. "No one explode. No one burst into ancient alien fire. I really can't handle more surprise fire today." The hangar doors opened. They sprinted aboard the drift ember. Kalen punched the engines, the ship launching with a protestive groan. As they soared through Varnek's stratosphere, Kaleth looked over her shoulder at the children. "They're stronger than we thought." "No kidding," Kalen said. "That kid just force quit a galactic cult ritual like it was a bad app." Lyra reached for his hand. "Where's Mother?" Kalen smiled, crooked and real. "Waiting." Gisalith Prime shimmered beneath them as they landed. A crowd had gathered. The Queen stood still at the platform, a storm held tight behind her eyes. No words, just a silence louder than any speech. When the hatch opened, Lyra stepped out first. Then Sen. The silence cracked. Varixa ran, breaking every protocol, every law of posture and poise, and dropped to her knees before them. She pulled them into her arms, and for a moment, the palace forgot how to breathe. Kalen stood at the top of the ramp, awkwardly rubbing the back of his neck. Glorv stood beside him, vibrating happily. We are witnessing high-grade sentimentality. I may leak. Same, Kalen said. But on the inside. Later in the war chamber turned reception hall turned semi-casual royal lounge, Kalen sat in a chair far too fancy for him and munched on a glowing fruit platter. The room buzzed with new energy. The council that once whispered of exile now whispered of victory. Varixa approached. She wore no crown, just the scars of someone who had stopped pretending they weren't tired. You brought them back. I just flew a ship, annoyed some guards, and made sarcastic comments. The kids did the hard part. And yet you were the one who stayed. Kalen stood. I'm not good at leaving. She studied him. The galaxy will change after this. Yeah, but I think it needed to. He hesitated. So, am I still technically trespassing? She smiled, really smiled. You are technically the hero of the spiral. Oh, stars, that's a terrible title. You'll get used to it. Do I get a medal? You get a mushroom. Glorv bounced in excitement. I will reside in your quarters and provide daily affirmations. I look forward to that. Varixa offered a hand. He took it. Stay a while, she said. They could use someone who makes them laugh. And you? I could use someone who reminds me how. He nodded. I'm not going anywhere. Outside, the artificial sun dimmed for evening, casting golden light over the towers of Isalith. The stars beyond blinked, distant, waiting, a little less cold. For the first time in a long time, they blinked with hope. The nav console had been giving him attitude for the past 17 minutes, which was a new record, even for a rust bucket like the Wayfarer's Folly. Elias Monroe jabbed at the flickering screen with the tip of a stylus, muttering a few words that would have made his mother blush, and his military instructor give him a high five. The ship, perhaps out of spite, spat out a line of gibberish across. You're not helping, Elias said, wiggling the stylus like a disappointed wizard. You know, I read once that in the 21st century, people use paper maps. Paper. At least those didn't mock you with emojis when you hit a wormhole wrong. The ship responded by dimming the cabin lights to a romantic, sulking shade of blue. Great, Elias muttered. Mood lighting. Because that's what I need while suffocating slowly in an uncharted system. Ambiance. He wasn't supposed to be here. 3 jumps ago, he'd aimed for the Darren trade routes, nice and boring. But a solar flare knocked out his nav assist just as he was threading the path past a Class B anomaly. Standard pilot error. The kind you laugh about later. If you live. Now he was somewhere between sectors the Galactic Mapping Corps hadn't even named yet, floating inside a pocket of space that felt off. Not dangerous exactly, just quiet. Too quiet, like the universe was holding its breath. His comm panel crackled once, then died. The environmental readout still claimed 78% oxygen and climbing, which was obviously impossible unless the ship had suddenly discovered how to photosynthesize. Then something knocked. Not a system alert, not a proximity ping, a knock, like knuckles on a door. Elias froze. He hadn't imagined it. He turned his head slowly toward the main hatch. Knock, knock. Okay, he whispered. Either I'm hallucinating or the vacuum of space just developed hands. Both bad. The knock came again, softer, then a hiss. The outer airlock seal disengaged. That wasn't supposed to happen either. Elias stood, unholstered the compact ion blaster from the wall, and took 2 careful steps toward the hatch. The inner door cycled open, smooth and silent, revealing her. She looked human at first, close enough to pass in a dim bar on a space station with generous lighting and questionable vodka. Tall, slender. Pale in a way that wasn't just complexion but commitment. Her eyes were dark violet, not the painted kind, but the kind that looked like they'd seen stars explode and still hadn't blinked. And her ears, long, too long, elegant and tapered like some ancient elvish deity had crashed a rave and stayed for a few millennia. She tilted her head. "You are Elias Monroe?" Elias lowered the gun half an inch. "I think so. I mean, if I'm not, we've got bigger problems." Her mouth quirked in what might have been a smile. "You are off course. Severely. Your ship is damaged." "I noticed. I offer assistance. Usually people knock before opening the airlock, you know. There's a protocol, a manual, consent." She blinked slowly. "You were dying. I considered that sufficient justification for bypassing etiquette." "Oh, good," Elias said. "You're not a space horror, just rude. That's comfortingly human." She stepped forward, barefoot, her long dark coat trailing behind her. It shimmered slightly with each step, like it was made of liquid shadows. "My name is Saraxa," she said. "You will accompany me." "Okay, that part, less comforting. I mean you no harm," she added in a tone that people usually use right before doing the opposite. "Your vessel's core is unstable. You have less than 4 hours before it collapses." Elias checked the panel. Reactor temp was rising. Fast. "Well, crap. I suggest haste," she said, turning. Her ship was docked just beyond his, nearly invisible in the dark. Sleek, angular, not of human make. Not even the kind of alien make that sold used plasma coils out of the back of asteroid hangars. This one looked like it was grown, not built, like some deep-sea creature that had accidentally evolved into a spacecraft. With a sigh, Elias followed. "If this ends with me in a meat locker, I'm haunting you." She glanced back. "Your humor is inefficient, but oddly endearing." "That's me. Inefficient and oddly endearing. Now tell me, does your ship have decent coffee?" She did not laugh, but she did say, "Define decent." Inside, the ship was silent. No engine hum, no mechanical purr. The corridors curved in impossible angles, lit by a dim bioluminescent glow. The air smelled like ozone and citrus. "Okay," Elias said. "Definitely a meat locker." Saraxa showed him to a room, bare but not unfriendly. The walls shifted texture when touched, like memory foam that had been to art school. "This will be your quarter," she said. "Rest. We will talk soon." She turned to leave. Elias raised a hand. "Wait, why me? I mean, you could have rescued anyone, any number of sad, lost, underpaid pilots." Saraxa paused. "You were chosen." "Chosen," he repeated. "Like in a good way? Or a human sacrifice to the starfish gods kind of way?" "Rest," she said again, more firmly this time. "Your mind is frayed. It needs time." He stared after her as she left, then sat on the gently pulsing bench that passed for a bed. "Well, Monroe," he muttered to himself, "you've officially been adopted by a pointy-eared space vampire with boundary issues. Let's see where that ends up on the weirdo meter." The door sealed shut behind him with a quiet sigh. The wall pulsed. Something chuckled softly, just under the edge of hearing. Elias awoke to the faint sensation that the bed was trying to cuddle him. Not in a romantic way, more like a confused octopus trying to understand the concept of personal space. He sat up quickly. The wall he'd been sleeping against rippled slightly, then returned to its usual faint glow and rhythmic pulse. He ran a hand through his hair. "Okay, still on the weird ship. Not a dream. Got it." He stood, stretching stiff limbs. His clothes had been cleaned, no doubt by the ship's mysterious fabric massaging function, or perhaps the invisible army of overly affectionate nanobots. Either way, his boots had been placed neatly by the door. That was either considerate or ominous. He wasn't sure which. The door slid open as he approached. No buttons, no panels, just awareness, like the ship was watching his every move with a quiet, polite curiosity. Saraxa was waiting outside, hands clasped behind her back. She wore the same flowing coat, the same unreadable expression. Her long ears twitched slightly when she saw him, like radar dishes adjusting to a frequency. "You slept longer than anticipated," she said. "Well, your bed tried to become my emotional support mattress," Elias replied. "Hard to resist." She ignored that. Come, there is much to explain. They walked down a corridor that wasn't there yesterday. Elias was sure of it. The walls today were smoother, more metallic, the bioluminescence shifting in patterns that reminded him vaguely of constellations. Not ones he recognized, though. These were older, stranger. Your ship's interior design is dynamic, he said. It adapts, she replied. To what? You. He stopped walking. Wait, are you saying this whole place is like some giant mood ring? She turned slightly. You are an emotional species. It is efficient to adjust your surroundings for comfort. Oh, great. So if I have a bad day, the hallway turns into a crying lounge with sad violin music? She didn't answer, which meant yes. They arrived at a chamber that looked like a library had fused with a planetarium. Circular platforms floated in the air, each projecting holograms that shifted with slow elegance. Some showed galaxies spiraling in reverse. Others displayed alien symbols that twisted themselves into unreadable knots as he stared at them. Siraxa touched one floating orb, and the room dimmed. A single projection hovered between them, a human figure surrounded by strange glyphs. This, she said, is why you were found. Is that me? Elias leaned in. I mean, the jawline's all wrong, but I appreciate the optimism. Siraxa didn't blink. You match the sequence. He squinted at the glyphs. Right, of course. The sequence. She turned to him. Thousands of years ago, our people encountered a cosmic phenomenon, what your scientists might call a conscious singularity. It seeded information across galaxies, encoded in genetics and gravitational rhythms. Elias nodded slowly. That sounds made up, but go on. Every few millennia, certain individuals are born across species who resonate with the pattern. You are one. Okay, hold on. He raised a hand. I'm just a contract pilot. I got kicked out of fleet training for betting on zero-grav basketball with a general's son. I once got lost in a docking ring bathroom. There's no way I'm part of a, what? Space Messiah Club? Siraxa tilted her head. We do not use that term, but your presence here is no accident. Because of this pattern thing? She nodded. Well, that's disappointing. I was hoping it was my rugged charm and total lack of common sense. Her lips twitched slightly, a near smile. Progress. She gestured and the hologram shifted to a map of a star system Elias didn't recognize. Planets in strange orbits, one glowing faintly blue circled by debris. Our home, she said, now dying. The energies once sustained by the resonance are fading. You may be the last chance to renew the connection. He took a step back. You want me to, what? Plug into a cosmic socket, sing to your son, dance in a ritual circle, and chant in Klingon? We do not use Klingon, she said seriously. That dialect is difficult. I was joking. I was not. I was not. Elias rubbed his face. Look, I'm just trying to stay alive long enough to file a complaint with my navigation software. I didn't sign up for a prophecy. The prophecy, she said, has signed up for you. He stared at her for a long moment. You practice saying stuff like that in the mirror, don't you? She turned and began walking again. You require nourishment. Is this going to involve blood? Because I'm really more of a carbs and caffeine kind of guy. They arrived in a chamber with what looked like a dining table, but it floated a few inches above the floor and appeared to be made of translucent crystal. On it, small orbs hovered, each glowing faintly, each emitting a different scent. Elias sniffed. That one smells like cinnamon. That one smells like grilled cheese. And that one smells like my grandmother's cookies, which is deeply unsettling. Your memories shape your perception, Siraxa said. The nourishment adapts. Right, so the food is psychic. Correct. He picked up the grilled cheese orb. It was warm, slightly squishy, and made a faint humming noise. If this sings show tunes when I bite it, I'm out. He bit it. It tasted perfect, like comfort and warmth and midnight snacks during stormy childhood nights. Also, possibly cheddar. He closed his eyes. Okay, that's cheating. Siraxa said nothing, simply watching him like a scientist observing a mildly amusing specimen. When he was done, she stood. You will undergo testing tomorrow to confirm the resonance. Testing? He asked. Is there a written portion? No. Is there a biting portion? She paused. Possibly. Fantastic. Back in his quarters, Elias lay on the bed. That was not a bed, and stared at the ceiling. That was not a ceiling. It pulsed faintly in time with his breathing. A ship that reads emotions. A woman with long ears and secrets deeper than gravity wells. A prophecy involving cosmic genetics. He closed his eyes. Next time, he muttered, I'm taking the scenic route through the dull sectors with nothing but space whales and bad coffee. The lights dimmed around him, and somewhere deep in the ship's strange bones, a faint hum started again, like a lullaby sung by stars. Elias woke up face down and confused, which was how most of his mornings started even before space vampires entered his life. The bed had helpfully contoured itself into a gentle bowl, holding him like an overly affectionate beanbag. It released a soft sigh as he sat up, which made him deeply uncomfortable. Yeah, thanks, buddy, he muttered, patting the surface. But let's keep this relationship professional. The wall glowed in response, possibly offended. He dressed quickly, his clothes now subtly altered to fit better, the fabric slightly cooler, lighter, probably infused with alien nanotech. Or haunted. At this point, both were equally plausible. The door opened before he could touch it, revealing Saraxa standing silently. She looked the same as always, ethereal, unsettling, maybe mildly disappointed in him. You are late, she said. I am fashionably disoriented, he replied. Different metric. She turned without a word, leading him through another corridor that hadn't existed yesterday. This one pulsed with slow-moving light beneath their feet, as though they were walking on the spine of some slumbering creature dreaming of disco. Today, she said, we initiate resonance verification. Right. The Cosmic DNA Talent Show, Elias muttered. Do I need to bring a swimsuit? She paused, looked over her shoulder, and said with complete seriousness, only if your species traditionally uses swimwear during genetic harmonization rituals. I was kidding. I was not. They reached a chamber shaped like a sphere cut in half, its walls covered in floating geometric shapes that spun slowly in place, humming. In the center was a raised platform surrounded by what looked suspiciously like tentacles made of light. Elias stopped at the threshold. Okay, gotta be honest, not loving the tentacle energy in here. They are conduits. They will not harm you. Great. Love a good non-harming tentacle. Saraxa gestured, and the platform lowered slightly, inviting. He stepped onto it. The tentacles moved immediately, hovering inches from his skin. They emitted a low-frequency vibration that made his teeth itch and his memories get fuzzy. Images flickered across his vision. His childhood dog chasing its tail, the first time he flew solo, that one time he got food poisoning on Mars, and hallucinated a conversation with his spoon. You are resisting, Saraxa said calmly. Do not. I'm sorry, he gritted. It's hard to relax when space noodles are massaging my aura. The vibration intensified. The air thickened. The shapes on the wall pulsed in a rhythm he didn't recognize, but somehow felt inside his chest. And then, connection. It was like someone had switched on an extra sense. He felt the ship not just around him, but with him. It pulsed with memories. Alien stars, long-lost songs, battles fought in silence and slow time. He saw flashes of Saraxa as a child, her ears shorter, eyes wide, floating in 0G while voices chanted from the walls. A ritual, a selection. Then he saw himself. Not as he was, but as others saw him, walking through galaxies he'd never visited, standing in places that no longer existed. The light cut off. The platform lowered. Elias wobbled and sat down hard. Okay, so that was intense. Do I get a sticker or something? Saraxa looked at him, unreadable. The ship recognizes you. Yeah, well, I recognize the ship too. We're practically dating now. You have passed the first stage. How many stages are there? Unclear. The resonance unfolds according to its own design. Fantastic, Elias groaned. So, mystery pop quizzes from the universe. Got it. They returned to the central chamber, where a new corridor had opened. This one was darker, quieter, the walls matte and still. "You must understand something," Saraxa said. "Our kind are not merely physical. We live in layers: memory, energy, inheritance. You have touched one layer, but others remain. Look, I'm barely qualified to change a ship's coolant coil. You want layers? Get a cake." Her head tilted slightly. "Is that humor?" "Mostly, also low-level panic." She led him into a new room where the ceiling swirled like a galaxy caught in slow motion. At the center stood a pedestal with a single object resting atop it: a mirror. He stepped closer and frowned. His reflection didn't match. The hair was right, the face mostly, but his eyes were glowing faintly, and around him danced faint symbols made of golden light. He waved. The mirror waved back, with the wrong hand. "Okay, that's deeply uncomfortable." "This is a reflection of your potential," Saraxa said. "The version of you that aligns with the resonance. It looks like me if I joined a secret cult and started floating during conversations." She stepped forward. "You joke because you are frightened. I joke because everything about this is insane." "You have not yet seen insane," she said quietly. The mirror darkened. A sudden sound echoed, low, distant, like a growl through metal. Elias spun. The walls flickered, and for a moment he thought he saw something behind Saraxa. A shadow, tall and thin, its limbs too many, its head a spinning geometric shape that shouldn't exist. Then it was gone. Elias said. "Was that a thing? Because I'm going to need some reassurance that the mirror doesn't come with jump scares." Saraxa said nothing. He narrowed his eyes. "That's not a no." She finally spoke. "The resonance awakens more than memory. It attracts attention." "From who?" "Not all things that wait in the void are sleeping." Elias took a step back. "See, this is why people stay home and open noodle shops instead of poking around the edges of destiny." She turned to him, eyes serious. "You are beginning to see. This is not a ritual. It is a call. And now that you've answered, others will hear it too." He rubbed his face. "Great. Space vampires and cosmic eavesdroppers. All I wanted was a nap and maybe a hot sandwich." He looked at her. "Are you at least going to admit you knew more about me from the start?" She paused. "I knew. Enough." "That's a yes." A sound like a door unlocking echoed behind them. Another corridor opened. He didn't move. "Let me guess. Stage 2? She nodded. He sighed. "Fine. But if the next room has tentacles again, I'm charging rent." Elias stepped into the new corridor with the resigned determination of a man who had once accepted a free burrito from a Martian street vendor and lived to regret it. The hallway was darker than the others, quiet in a way that felt deliberate, like silence had taken up residence and was charging rent. "I'd ask if we were heading into danger," he muttered, "but I feel like the ship would just turn red and start playing dramatic violin music." Saraxa didn't answer. She moved ahead of him with the same fluidity as always, her long coat trailing behind her like a sentient shadow trying to keep up. "Where are we going now?" he asked. "To the vessel's inner memory chamber." "Ah, a memory chamber. Sounds wholesome. Do we bring snacks, old home videos?" "The ship remembers all who pass through it," she said. "Some of those memories are yours." "I didn't authorize that." "You were unconscious, and technically dying." "Still feels like a violation of personal nostalgia." The corridor ended in a circular room with no walls, just endless dark, interrupted by flickering lights that pulsed like distant stars. Elias squinted. Each light seemed to contain an image, a moment, a place, a person. Some he recognized, some he almost recognized. "Pick one," Saraxa said. "Like at random? Or is this one of those destiny things where if I choose wrong, I get eaten by metaphors?" She gestured to the lights. "The resonance reacts to intuition. There is no wrong choice. That's what people say right before you touch the cursed artifact." He reached out and touched a light that hovered close to his eye level. Instantly, the room spun. When it stopped, he was standing in a simulation of his old apartment on Ceres Station, complete with cracked coffee maker, stained couch, and a small robot vacuum that had always tried to climb walls like a confused beetle. "What the hell?" Saraxa stood beside him, entirely unfazed. The ship accesses your encoded memory signatures. It reconstructs moments to test emotional alignment. I call this one the Great Toast Fire of 2237, Elias said, pointing to the charred toaster in the corner. Very formative. Lots of trauma. Then he saw himself, his past self, walk into the kitchen wearing mismatched socks and humming the series transit jingle. The past version made toast. The toaster sparked. The smoke alarm screamed. Elias turned to Saraxa. You dragged me into space memory therapy for this? Watch. The moment shifted. The air around them pulsed. The room blurred. Suddenly, the fire didn't stop at toast. Flames surged unnaturally. Walls cracked. Shadows moved against the light. Shadows with too many eyes. Okay, that didn't happen, Elias said quickly. That's not how it went. The resonance distorts repressed fear. It reveals pressure points. Yeah, well, I think we just found one. I'd like to repress it again, please. The shadows lunged. Everything snapped back. They were back in the chamber of lights. Elias staggered, rubbing his temples. Okay, that was deeply unpleasant. What's next? Childhood pet betrayal? My fourth-grade poetry recital? Saraxa didn't respond. She touched another light. This time the chamber filled with a battlefield. Not one Elias had ever seen, but somehow it felt familiar. The sky was red, the ground covered in broken machines that pulsed with dying energy. In the distance, strange figures moved, tall, lithe, covered in shimmering armor. I don't know this place, Elias said. You do, Saraxa replied. This is not your memory, it is ours. Shared now? He turned toward her. Wait, you said I was part of some ancient connection. Are you saying I've been here before? Not you, she said. A pattern in your blood. A genetic echo. One of the first humans chosen long ago. Your resonance activates ancestral continuity. Awesome. So I'm a space Xerox. A vital one, she said. The memories in your DNA connect to our kind. They allow access to knowledge sealed by time and entropy. Elias rubbed his face. Can I just be a guy with decent hair and poor navigation instincts? Do I really have to be the cosmic USB drive for an ancient race? Refusing your role does not erase it, he sighed. Does sarcasm work on your people? Because it's kind of all I've got left. The scene shifted again. This time it was a stasis chamber. Cold, quiet. Inside it, another human. Elias blinked. Who the hell is that? Sarax's face darkened. A prior candidate. The man inside the chamber was older, bearded, pale. Tubes ran from his arms to the chamber's walls, pulsing faintly with gold light. What happened to him? He failed the resonance. His consciousness unraveled. He could not hold the signal. Elias stepped closer. The man's eyes opened slowly. Bloodshot, terrified. Wait, he's alive? Technically? Define technically. He exists within a recursive loop of self-awareness and disintegration. Elias took a step back. Okay, no offense, but your recruitment methods need serious PR work. He volunteered. Even worse. The man inside the chamber twitched, whispering something Elias couldn't hear. What's he saying? Saraxa stepped forward. He speaks in the old tongue. A warning. Great. Can't wait to not understand that while having prophetic nightmares. The lights dimmed. The chamber faded. Elias stood again in the corridor, heart pounding. He looked at Saraxa. Why show me that? Because it is possible you will not survive what comes next. Now you tell me. But if you do, you will unlock something our kind has waited millennia to recover. He exhaled. Okay, so no pressure. She tilted her head. You have a choice. Oh, now I have a choice. To leave. To return to your ship. To forget. He looked around at the glowing corridor, the endless lights, the fading image of the stasis pod. I don't even know what this is all leading to. Sarax's voice was soft. You will. He shook his head. At this point, I've seen hallucinations, mirror clones, space noodles, accursed grilled cheese, and a guy stuck in an eternal mind loop. And for some reason, I'm still here. I don't even know if that says something brave or something profoundly dumb. Saraxa blinked. Perhaps both. He smirked. All right, onward to stage 5 then. I assume it involves fire, riddles, or interpretive dance. She began to walk. It involves truth. Elias followed, muttering, Of course it does. The one thing I'm actually bad at. Elias stood at the threshold of the final chamber, eyeing the door like it owed him money. Last one, right? He asked. No more tentacles? Psychic trauma? Surprise karaoke rounds? Saraxa didn't answer. She stepped forward, the door opening with a sound like exhaled breath. Beyond it lay a vast empty space. No lights, no walls, no gravity. Elias floated, disoriented. Okay, cool. Physics just took a coffee break. Saraxa hovered beside him, her coat drifting like it had opinions about direction. This is the core. Of what? Your ship? The prophecy? The universe's most unsettling escape room? She extended her hand. Place your palm here. Is this going to electrocute me? Because I was once mildly zapped by a vending machine, and I still can't look at almond bars without flinching. He placed his hand against hers. Nothing happened. Then everything happened. Light surged through them. Not just light, data, memories, time, entire galaxies unfolding like blooming flowers. Stars being born and dying. Civilizations evolving, collapsing, laughing, singing. A language without words, a message that pulsed through his cells. You are the bridge. He saw the origin, the singularity Saraxa spoke of, a living intelligence at the edge of time, casting fragments of itself into species across the cosmos, waiting for resonance. He was one of those fragments, or rather the final receiver. The connection snapped. He gasped, suddenly standing again on solid ground. Saraxa was kneeling beside him, breathless. You survived, she said. Define survived, he croaked, because I think my brain just went through puberty again. You absorbed the signal. It lives in you now. Great. Do I get a decoder ring? Her smile was faint. Real. You are the decoder ring. He looked at her. So now what? I become the chosen one? Start glowing? Speak in riddles? Lead your people to Space Lothlorien? Saraxa rose. You choose. That is the final part. He blinked. You're saying I can walk away now? No more tests? Just go back to wandering the stars and pretending I know how to read a map? She nodded. Yes. He crossed his arms. That seems anticlimactic. Choice always does, until you make it. He thought about it. The ship pulsed softly beneath them, almost like it was listening, or waiting, or bored. You said your kind was dying, that this resonance could save them. It can, but only if you carry the seed. The seed of memory, of future. It is all one. He paced. You sure there's no second runner-up? Some backup resonance dude with less sarcasm and better grooming habits? She tilted her head. You are uniquely annoying. That may be why it chose you. Touching. He looked at the chamber, at her, at the strange journey that had started with a wrong turn and a knock on an airlock door. He sighed. Okay, fine. I'll do it. But only if I get to name something. A planet? A nebula? A sandwich? Something. Agreed. Also, I want a jacket like yours, with the dramatic floaty thing. It's growing on me. Her eyes sparkled just slightly. A platform rose from the ground. Upon it, a glowing sphere, pulsing gold and violet. The seed, a piece of the living signal. Ilias stepped forward. He touched it. A surge of sensation. Joy, sorrow, laughter, songs in languages he'd never known. Echoes of children not yet born. Machines whispering love poems to stars. Then calm. He breathed. When he opened his eyes, the sphere was gone. Inside him now. Saraxa stepped forward. It is done. He looked at her. So, I just walk around with an ancient alien consciousness inside me now? Do I need a helmet? You are not its prisoner. You are its partner. Still, might keep snacks on hand. Cosmic enlightenment makes me hungry. She walked with him back through the ship. The corridors were different now, brighter, more alive, responding not just to Saraxa, but to him. He stopped outside the airlock. His ship was still there, somehow functional, repaired. Your vessel is healed, Saraxa said. It will follow your command. He turned. And you? I will remain. My role is complete. He frowned. You're not coming with me? I was a guide. You are now the keeper. He looked down at his hands. They didn't glow. Walang halos. No dramatic background music, but something inside had changed. Will I see you again? Saraxa stepped forward. When the time comes, when new stars are born. Cryptic as ever. It suits the moment. He grinned. Fair. He stepped into his ship. The systems hummed to life, smoother than ever before. As the docking clamps released, he took one last look at her. She raised a hand in farewell. Her long ears shimmered faintly in the light. Then she was gone. The ship moved forward, sliding into the black sea of space. Elias sat in the pilot's seat, eyes on the stars. He tapped the console. All right, universe, let's try this again. Maybe this time, with fewer hallucinations and more grilled cheese. The stars blinked back. Somewhere deep inside, the signal pulsed, waiting, not to control, but to explore. With him. This time, he wasn't lost.